mute all the time. If you face any issue, would request you to switch off your videos. Maybe that will give you better bandwidth. And also we'll have a Q&A session towards the end of the session, and that's when it'll be great to have all your questions answered. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. So, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Samreen Gauri and I lead the school education projects at the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, FICCI's School Education Division, FICCI Arise. Arise, which stands for Alliance for Reimagining School Education. Most of you would know that FICCI is an apex chamber which represents the interest of the Indian industry and trade. It was established in 1927 at the inspiration of the father of the nation, Sri Mahatma Gandhi. It mobilizes consensus amongst various stakeholders for advocacy of policy and regulatory issues and sharing of best practices. Happy to share that FICCI Arise is a collegium of over 1,350 schools, 85,000 educators, and over 1.5 million students. On behalf of FICCI Arise, I would like to thank all of you for joining us today in the Leader Lab on how leaders can use digital transformation to empower teachers. At the onset, I would like to thank Google for Education for collaborating with us on this very pertinent topic in today's age. Here we reflect on the best strategies needed to plan the path for delivery of blended learning in schools. So, with this pandemic, I think all of us have realized that the new normal for education is requiring us to reboot what we have known about education. So engaging classrooms, school corridors, in-person student-teacher communication, and other aspects related to going to school and being there in the school physically. We all are witnessing on how the education sector has been in huge crisis, and it continues for the time being, and we are again seeing on how the spread of a new COVID variant with in everyday news telling us about the increased number of people that it is impacting. And it is in this situation that online education has stood with us in the rescue of the cause of education. While I know that you all would agree that the landscape is getting transformed as teachers have started using digital tools and creative approaches. And before I say anything further, I think I would like to congratulate each one of you for battling this head on in your respective schools and keeping the education going. Your great passion and perseverance has ensured ensured that teaching continued despite schools being closed, and we are hopeful that this will continue as we go forward. But as I said, that the traditional education model, I think, needs to change a bit to maybe convert it into a meaningful, interactive, collaborative space for learners, so that teaching learning is happening in the best possible way. Through our webinar today, we aim at presenting some of the best and innovative technological and pedagogical practices that can be adapted towards effectively delivering teaching learning in the virtual environments for sustaining learning, not only right now but post COVID scenarios also. And we are all hopeful that this word just goes out of our lives soon. I hope you all would immensely benefit from today's session. And with this, I would take the opportunity to formally welcome our discuss for the day. Let's welcome Ms. Radhika Zahidi, School Director, the Green Acres Academy, Chembur. Ms. Zahidi did her MA in Mathematics Education from Columbia University and is a Google certified innovator. Thank you so much, Ms. Zahidi, for joining us today, giving your time. We are also joined by the team from the Green Acres Academy. Ms. Smriti Parekh, Head of Social Sciences Program, the Green Acres Academy Chembur, and Emmett from Harvard University and a Google certified educator, along with Ms. Mehrnaz Eshraghi, Instructional Head at the Green Acres Academy Mulund, who's an Emmett from Harvard University, and last but surely not the least, Ms. Sanyukta Bafna, Head of Citizenship Program, the Green Acres Academy. Ms. Bafna did her MT from Columbia University and is a Google certified educator as well. Thank you to the entire team from the Green Acres Academy for joining us today. Gladly, we are also joined by Mr. Vishal Anand, who is the regional manager in the Google for Education team, where he leads the Western and Northern region. Before this, Vishal was leading the strategy and insights vertical for the education industry in Google. An alumnus of IIT Roorkee and Indian School of Business, Vishal is very passionate about education. Thank you so much, Vishal, for giving in time and joining us today. I would now request Vishal to please share a few words. Over to you, Vishal.
Thank you so much, Samreen, for a warm welcome. I can't agree more. Thank you to the Green Acres team and all the teachers who are today with us on this call for quickly adapting to the situation we are in and ensuring that we continue to provide quality education to our children. Thank you so much. With that, what we would do is we would start with a quick snapshot of Google's vision on education and what we bring on the table, and then we will open it with subsequent items for the day. Are we good to go ahead, Samri? Anything else that you want to add?
No, Vishal, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Can all of you hear me? Cool. At Google, our mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. It all started with search and the ability to access information. And the way in which people understand and apply that information can be really transformative for themselves, their community, and the world at large. And learning makes this information useful, which is why it sits across everything we do at Google. We believe that no matter our backgrounds, everyone deserves access to great learning experiences. The ability to learn in the classroom, at home, and everywhere in between has never been more important than it is today. And why? Because every person deserves the chance to fulfill their potential. When a student has everything they need to learn in a way that works for them, powerful things can happen. When it comes to what a student needs to learn, it will naturally vary from student to student. But some fundamentals apply to all. Students need access to up-to-date curriculum content. They need access to teachers who can guide and support their learning journey. And they need access to tools and resources to support their learning, whether it is a screen reader for a visually impaired student or video conferencing tools for those learning at home. When the fundamental support and tools of education are provided, possibilities open up and the potential can be then fulfilled. We just spoke about this learning happens at school and home and everywhere in between. We know just how much is involved in making this happen, this entire continuous learning journey, and how many people are involved. There are governments, state and district leaders who are tasked with designing and delivering a curriculum that resonates with students, while providing safe, well-resourced schools for students to attend each day. There are school leaders who make decisions about how a school is run and who need to stay abreast of the latest tools to best support the curriculum. Things like augmented reality, VR, robotics, and more. And most importantly, teaching staff who not only deliver the curriculum, but find ways to teach beyond what's in the textbook, to ignite passion and inspire creative thinking. And lastly, parents and guardians who provide the home-based support and scaffolding of school-based learning. And we are here to help with technology and tools to support the changing needs of educators and students. It is our driving goal to help educators transform teaching and learning for all. And that means providing a platform for each school to have the time, tools, and material they need to create impactful teaching and learning environment that are right for every individual students. To empower educators with the means to create innovative and impactful teaching environment to drive outcomes for every student, no matter who they are, where they are learning from, or what their individual goals might be. And we aspire to support everybody in the ecosystem by enabling every leader to bring innovation to their schools at scale with the peace of mind that they are investing in secure products that are flexible to their needs, by empowering every educators by giving them simple, assistive tools so that they can focus on what they do best, which is helping students reach their full potential, and equipping every student with the tools and skills they need to be successful by focusing on inclusivity and accessibility so we can meet students wherever they are. And at the same time, evolving every day by continuing to listen to thousands of educators to create and improve upon our existing solutions, ensuring that the latest technologies reflected in the tools we build for teaching and learning. And just to give you a quick snapshot of our key offerings at Google for Education through which we enable our vision on teaching and learning. We are trying to solve the access problem with our Chromebook devices by providing every student and teacher with a personalized learning environment. We are simplifying teaching and learning with our Google Workspace for Education tools, which promote collaboration and creativity. We are also developing content resources which addresses a few important areas which needs our focus, like coding for kids or teacher skilling. Now quickly deep dive into two of our offerings, which are Chromebook and Google Workspace. Now Chromebooks. Today, 40 million students and educators across the globe are using Chromebooks. These devices are built on latest cloud technologies. The key features and benefits play an important role in the context of a school. For example, these devices can be set up remotely and all the policies can be managed remotely. For example, the apps that you want the student to have access to, or the websites you want the student to actually access when they are in school premises, all of that can be managed from a central location through an administrator at school. While distance learning, teachers can conduct assessment remotely and securely with logged mode or kiosk mode, which brings a lot more authenticity to the assessment that is done during the pandemic times. The device also comes with 6 years of automatic updates, which makes it highly durable. What it means is, as your device grows old, the software will keep on updating and refreshing, and you don't need to worry about uninstalling or reinstalling any operating system. So that manageability headache is also taken care of. And most importantly, in the Indian context, where most of the students share devices in schools across different grades and sections, these devices act as a personal device when a student logs into it with their own credentials. For example, if I'm a student in studying in, let's say, section class 8A, and I'm going to the computer lab and logging into my Chromebook, I will see my own apps, files, etc. Whereas when my friend who's studying in class 8B, when his turn comes to enter into the computer lab, he will log into with his own credentials, and he will see the different or his own environment. While both of us are accessing the same device, but the experience is completely personalized. So that's how Chromebook as a device is best suited when it comes to the need of a school, of a educational institution, when it comes to delivering learning experiences to students. Moving to our next offering, Google Workspace for Education. Today, more than 170 million educators and students use Google Workspace for Education globally. And we all know that what was the role of this tool in the last 2 years. It played an important pivotal role enabling every teacher, every student to ensure that they continue their education journey. What is this tool all about? This is basically a collection of various collaborative tools which enables teaching and learning both in online mode as well as hybrid mode. The mode which we envisage the education will be post the pandemic era. Digital will continue to play an important role, and these tools will continue to play an important role by solving the issues when it comes to operations issues or collaborations issues which were there in the pure offline mode. So while we all want our students and teachers to return to schools, what we should definitely encourage is how can we use the latest technology in making the learning at school as well as outside of school much more smooth and seamless. Now, talking a little bit more detail about in Google Workspace for Education. I just mentioned that it's a collection of apps. I think most of us would have heard about Google Classroom. Google Classroom is at the center stage of Google Workspace for Education. This is the application that we have created just for educational purposes. It doesn't only act as an LMS, but also ties in all the other collaborative tools so that the user, the student and the teacher gets an integrated experience on our platforms. For example, the students and teachers can join their online classes using Google Meets through Classroom. They can use docs, slides, etc. to complete their assignments or to collaborate on a project. Teachers can access YouTube and students can consume YouTube content in the safe environment of Classroom. Students and teachers will also have access to Drive, where they can always go and look for the resources they want in order to perform their teaching and learning jobs. You have Google Forms, which you can use to conduct regular quizzes, etc. And then there are many more tools which are available, which teachers and educators can use it based on their requirements. And we'll continue to innovate and bring the features, new features and technology that all our users care about. With that, I would like to thank you for patiently sitting through this session and looking forward to the rest of the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vishal, for a descriptive session on what Google is all about and the good tools and features that Google Workspace has for educators to use in the delivery of education. So thank you so much for that. And without further ado, I think let me quickly hand over the session to to our guests from the Green Acres Academy today, so that they can take the webinar forward. So I would request Ms. Radhika Zaidi to please take the session forward. Over to you, Ms. Zaidi.
Thank you, Samreen. And really an honor and great, wonderful opportunity for us to be here and share our learning with all of you. Hopefully, we'll be talking about almost everything that Vishal just talked about and how we've been using it. And we really hope it is useful for all of you. I'm going to just jump into this session with just to get a sense of how our listeners are feeling right now. So I'm going to start with a quick poll. If I'm going to put this is the poll for those of you that have used Mentimeter before. You can type in that code, go to menti.com and type in the code, and I will also share the link as well in the chat, okay? So if you thought we were going to be passively listening to this session, we're all teachers here, we don't let our students do that. So we just want to know how you have been feeling about the pandemic so far. So you can just click on the link, open a new tab, use your phone, go to Menti, or use your phone, go to menti.com. Great, we've got one response there. Some optimists, some people just absolutely fed up. Let's get a sense of how everyone is feeling really quickly. Nice. All the optimists have come to the workshop. It makes sense, right? You want to learn more. The optimistic people are saying, how can I do more? And they've shown up for this workshop. So that's always exciting for the workshop facilitators, because we love sharing ideas with optimists. Just in the interest of time, I'm going to wait for 1 more minute. So if you haven't shared how you're feeling, now's the time to do it. It just takes a second. And if you haven't used it before, it's a nice new tool that you will have, you can incorporate into your classrooms. Yes, Takshila wants offline classes. I know everyone's missing their students, right? Okay, great. So I'm going to go switch back to the presentation, but it seems like we mostly have a group of people who are feeling optimistic about tech and the digital transformation, and hopefully you'll be able to take some things away if you're not already doing them in your school. So let's jump right into it. So that was the Mentimeter that we just did. What are we going to be sharing with you in the next 1 hour? We're going to be talking about, well, since most of you are school leaders in this session, and this session is for school leaders, we're really going to be talking about how you can use this digital transformation, this whole pandemic and all the stuff that's come along with it to empower your teachers. And then we look at when teachers are empowered with technology, how they will empower 3 other stakeholders: themselves, students, and families. All right? Before we go in, I know we already got an introduction, so I'm not going to spend time on this, but here's the 4 people, Sanyukta, Mehna, Smriti, and myself, who will be facilitating this workshop. Our background, all of us are teachers, coaches, school leaders, and work with curriculum and teacher training. And they already told you about our background. And all 4 of us are from the Green Acres Academy, which is also a part of the Acres Foundation. But if you want to know more about us, we'll leave an email later and we can share resources on that. So let's just jump into it. Another quick poll for those of you that joined Mentimeter. I have 90 people on the call, but only 45, 46 people responding, or even less than that. I'm a math teacher, guys, but I got the math wrong. Here's the next poll. Just give me a second. So before we go into sharing, we want to know what, according to you, what do you think research says about who has the greatest impact on student learning? Really quick. A lot of people saying teachers. Is it because we've read the research or we've just seen it firsthand? Okay, some people saying technology, some people saying school, and well, one person each, and some people saying leaders. Just give a few seconds more for you to get your responses. So I have 20, close to 30 people responding. If this was my classroom, I would consider this my student engagement to be a failure in this classroom. But thank you for all those that have responded. I'm going to go back to the presentation. And yes, we absolutely, you are right. Research tells us that teachers have the #1 influence on student learning. And keeping that in mind, we have decided that even though this is for leaders, we are going to talk about how technology can empower teachers to realize, fully realize their impact on the development and learning of students. All right. So let's start with the first thing. So before we start, just to go back to that slide, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what your role is as a leader. And then in these sections, I'm not going to talk theory. We're just going to start sharing actual things that we have done in our organization that have had a very positive impact on teaching and learning. All right, so let's quickly start with what is the role of a leader in all of this digital transformation. Let's take a step back and look at schools. Who is in the school? We have students in our classrooms who are the center of all our decisions, right? All of us come to school for the students. Students are supported by teachers who function within a larger organization, right? And we believe that leaders have a role to play in influencing this whole system, not just one teacher or students. And leaders have a unique role because they can influence the whole organization. And what is their role in that influencing the organization? Well, you can think of it as a machine with cogs that are working together, right? All of the pieces of the organization. And the leader's role is to ensure that they are moving together and even oiling those cogs, greasing those wheels so that they function smoothly together. That is our role as leaders. And to simplify that further in the context of digital transformation, what actually do we have to do? Leaders, during this session, I'm hoping that you can, while looking at this session, recognize opportunity for your school. So one, think about what opportunities that are being shared in this session might be useful for me to take to my school. So first I have to recognize the opportunity. And second, I need to think about, okay, so now I think this is a good idea for my school, but how can I make it work in my school? And that involves two more things. I've recognized this is a really important opportunity. I should bring it into my school. I should share that vision with all the people in my school, the students, the teachers, anyone who has a role to play. And then I'm responsible for making sure they get the resources, the tools, the time, and the training. And technology can play a big role over here. Okay, so leaders, now we're going to go into sharing different things that we've done in our organization, but this is the lens within which you can look. You can say, okay, these things, this works, this might not work, but these are the things I want to take into my organization. All right. So just wanted to start with that and hope that you can extract the most for your organization while we're sharing. All right, let's move on. Oh yeah, before I move on, I put this reminder here. We are, as you can imagine, I'm sure the case is the same in all of your schools. We've done a lot of different things in these 2 years. The things that we want to do over 5 years, somehow, thanks to the digital transformation and the pandemic, we've managed to do a lot more in 2 years. We've only chosen to share the things that we think can continue to happen in a hybrid environment. So just wanted to throw that out there before we get into. We've thrown out the things that we don't think are very feasible to do as we return to school and kept the ones that we think are most feasible. All right, so let's start with the first one. How can we empower teachers empower themselves? So we're going to share with you some ideas that you might be able to take in for the purpose of teacher training or professional development in your organization. Okay. There's two areas that we're going to share about. The first is when you do professional development in terms of workshops. So that's mostly new knowledge or theory. And the second is how you can use something like Google Workspace to enhance the productivity and improvement of teachers in professional learning communities. All right, so let's start with the first one. So how did we leverage technology for the purpose of workshops? All of you know NEP has said it's ideal to have at least 50 hours of teacher training for your team, right? And fortunately for us, we already had 50 hours of time allocated. But what we used to do is we used to give the workshop in a live session, someone talking live and running the workshop and giving new knowledge. It had to be conducted live, and then whoever was there, whoever missed it, missed it. During the pandemic, we took on a really exciting initiative of digitizing workshops. Okay, so I'm going to show you a sample. How did we do it? We basically said, okay, whatever we're doing in a workshop format, in a giving lectures or conducting activities, let us turn it into an online session. So we said, let us use Google Sites, because on Google Workspace, Google Sites was free. And we turned our talking into short videos. We used Google Forms to check the participants' understanding, and we used Google Forms for the summative assessment. Now I'm going to quickly show you a sample of this. Okay. And if Mehnaz or Smriti, you can share the site as well. I'm going to give you this site for your reference also. It's a site we created for another workshop. But this is what you can do very simply on a Google site. Okay, so this is a Google site that we've created. It's about, the topic is assessing online learning. And we put some instructions. These are the topics, right? And if you see, what we did is we just created a short video. So 1 video, 2 videos, 3 videos. Can you see that 2 minutes, 3 minutes long? And then we put a form to check your understanding on those videos. Then again, 1 video, 2 video, 3 video, 4 videos about the topic, check your understanding. Finally, 2 more videos, and then a summative assessment where the teachers filled it in. And we could also keep a track of who's completed the form and who hasn't. Yeah. The link is there for you, so you can open it and go through it. If you want to do that session also, you're more than welcome to do it and fill up the form. We've created it for public use. But we wanted to share this with you because this had a huge impact on our organization. What we did is we created 23 such digital PD courses on different topics that we wanted teachers to learn. Assessment, giving instruction, what do we want the values of our teachers to have. English teachers did it on language comprehension, questioning techniques, lots of different things. And we created these kind of digital PDs. We did it in 1 year's time, and when we took feedback from our teachers, we realized a lot of things happened that we couldn't achieve in a live session. What kind of things? First of all, teachers could do it on their own pace, right? So in a workshop, everyone has to do it at the same pace, same time. Here they could do it at home. Maybe some teachers told us they would cook dinner and at 10 o'clock in the night they would do it. Some would do it at 10 in the morning. It was on demand. So if a teacher wanted to go back to it, they could go back to the course. Our Hindi teacher at the end of it told us, listen, this is the first time I actually understood the PDs, because when I didn't understand some material, I could call a friend up and watch it with a Google search the translation. We could also create differentiated PD pathways, right? Because if a new teacher came in the middle of the year, now suddenly she could do all the workshops that she missed in the start of the year PD. So we could also update content. There's a lot of advantages, and in a span of 1 year, our 150 plus teachers have totally finished 2,500 plus courses. That means each of them have completed above 10 courses each. Of course, different teachers completed different numbers depending on their needs. So something we wanted to share with you just to consider is think about ways where you can use these free tools like Google Sites and stuff to digitize and capture your professional development when an expert comes in to share. Yeah. Moving ahead, so that is all the theoretical knowledge. We also do something called professional learning communities. I'll let Smriti take over from here. She's one of our best PLC facilitators, and so she's the best person to share.
Thank you, Radhika. I'll first start by just giving a little bit context of what PLCs are. These are essentially subject level and grade level specific spaces in which teachers collaborate with each other to solve problems of practice. So any problem around instruction or around student learning outcomes that they might come up with. In our school, we have grade and subject level PLCs, which means grades 2 to 4, English, science, math, so on and so forth. And we also have PLCs in which all the teachers of one particular grade might need to talk about homeroom level stuff, which is children's behavior, their developmental level, areas around discipline, which they might want to talk to each other about and solve for. So that's what PLCs are. Whenever I say PLC in the next few slides, that's what I mean. Radhika, if you can, yeah. So before we moved on to this sort of technology-led space, most of our PLCs, the ownership was lying with the leader or the facilitator of that space, which means the agenda was designed by that person. The facilitator was bringing in all the resources which the teachers had to look into, and all the decision making and action was being owned by that facilitator or leader. But technology allowed us to move towards this teacher-led space, and this shared ownership led to improvement in decision making and the action that teachers were owning together in a group. This has happened over 20 PLCs in our school, which happen on a weekly basis. And you can see the data. 90% of our teachers strongly agree with the fact that these spaces help them address the challenges that they face in their classroom. One of our facilitators also told us about how these PLCs have been a space for thinking about innovative practices and taking them into the classroom in a safe space, bringing them back, deliberating over what worked, what didn't work. And things like Google Meet and breakout room structures have really helped in promoting meaningful group discussions among teachers, because when it's a larger group, somebody might feel like, hey, I don't need to speak because there are 12 teachers on it, but breakout rooms have allowed teachers to engage with smaller groups within a PLC of 15 teachers and engage meaningfully with the problem of practice that they're talking about. I'm going to talk about how it has improved decision making first. So one thing that technology has allowed us to do is bring multiple sources of data into the PLCs. Earlier, we were just referring to the formative assessments or the summative assessments, but technology has now allowed us to put all of these on Google Sheets, use Google Forms, and bring all of this data together, which teachers can now assess in their groups along with each other instead of waiting for their leader or facilitator to bring it in on a weekly basis. It has also increased transparency because everything is on that shared agenda, which is linked to the calendar invite. All the meetings are getting recorded, so anyone can take a look at it at any point of time. And it has increased the accountability that teachers feel towards their classrooms, their students, because it's no longer about one person bringing in some data and saying that, hey, let's look at this itself, right? Anybody can bring in a lesson plan, a classroom observation, a summative assessment data point, and all the teachers together deliberate over that particular data source and think about what are they learning from that and what do they want to take away into their own classrooms from that. Radhika, if you can move to the next slide. I'll take you through the example of these PLC documents towards the end. First, we'll look further into how it's also, what are some of these multiple sources of data and where do we take them from? At the classroom level, we take Google Forms, student work samples from our Google Classroom spaces itself. And Google Classroom has also been super helpful in us capturing attendance and submission data. Over the last 2 years, we've looked at how students' attendance have changed between the first year of COVID and the second year of COVID, and we have been able to take action because of that. At the school-wide level, we look at some of these annual assessments that our school takes, which are asset and curriculum-based measures, along with some inter-school competition performances, which the teachers actually look at and think about, if this is high-quality performance, then what would it mean for us to create similar outcomes in our classrooms as well? And another evidence or data point that we look at are just teachers' anecdotal observations. All the teachers look at their peers' classrooms because, again, all the classroom videos are recorded, all the lesson plans are digital. They're trying new different tools every day in their classrooms, and they bring in these anecdotal observations about what works and what doesn't. How this improves collective action. Like I said, the agenda is shared. Teachers can always put in before the meeting what they would like to discuss with their peers. And what this shared agenda and a meeting space, a digital meeting space also does is it creates so many different participation opportunities. We all know that there are individuals who like to just write and participate. So you have your chat box, you have the agenda document where teachers can type in their thoughts. There are teachers who participate through polls, and polls are such a good way to anonymously talk about, hey, I disagree with something which you're talking about. And then the facilitator can sort of dive deeper into what is causing this disagreement. Do we want to really think about how can we solve for this disagreement that is coming out? And of course, there is the oral participation, which we are all aware of. So this digital space has allowed us to give multiple entry points to teachers as well in the PLC spaces. I'll now show you the examples that I have collated for you so that you get a sense of how we manage the agenda documents as well. So right on top, you can see the basic template that we follow. Usually, we either would reflect deeply on a data point, or we will think about some reading that we want to bring into this PLC space, and we want to learn more from Edutopia articles or any other article that exists out there about our discipline. First, I'll take you through an example of how it works in an English PLC agenda. So in this particular example, teachers have looked at a school-wide data, right? They have looked at asset scores. If you're not aware of it, it's an international assessment that we take in our school. And in the findings, teachers have talked about what are some strengths they are noticing about their students, what are some areas of improvement that they are noticing, and what kind of action can they take. So at each grade level, you can see teacher 1, teacher 2, teacher 3, they've all contributed their thoughts around that, and collaboratively they've come up with a line of action. Similarly, in grade 5 level, you can see more teachers adding on their thoughts. If you scroll down furthermore, there's another example of how they looked at 2 lesson plans. And they thought of using those lesson plans to think about what are some benefits, challenges, and why would I want to try it in my classroom. So teachers are no longer thinking just about what works and what doesn't, but they're building their own clarity and rationale around, hey, this is why I should take it into my class, and this is how it will help my students build agency. Again, you can see multiple teachers. There were almost 10 teachers who participated in this discussion, and they all wrote down their thoughts. Then we looked back at these particular statements, and we discussed some of the ones which stood out to us. And finally, some of the last few examples that I wanted to share were around accountability and transparency. Here you can see that in our PLCs, we talk about what is the decision we have taken at a previous meeting, and who are the people who are responsible for execution of this, right? So you can write teacher names if you want, you can write grade levels if you want, and the next PLC would begin by teachers themselves populating whether they met that action point. Is it complete? Is there any question that they would like to ask? Or is it something that's still pending about it? So that has also been really, really helpful. Our facilitators or teachers themselves usually tag each other on this as well. You can see a computers PLC example where teachers have done it and they have marked the status complete. And yeah, this is one of the ways in which our teachers maintain transparency of actions, who's responsible and who's accountable as well. Thank you, Radhika.
Thank you, Smriti. That was superb. And Smriti has taken all of this from actual PLC documents, and we hope that that reference is useful to you. We want it to be, we want you to take and transfer as much as you can. So please do go ahead and look at that. Thanks, Smriti. So yeah, that was two ways in which you can promote professional learning for teachers using technology. And now we'll move on to how we can use technology to help teachers empower their students. So we're going to talk about two things here. One is we're talking about how you can promote student agency or make students take charge or be responsible for their own learning and use technology for that. I'll share very briefly about that, and then I'll call Mehnaz to talk about how technology has allowed us to bring authentic learning into the classrooms. So very quickly, I'm just going to start with how can we help students be empowered to take charge of their own learning. And I want to just go off topic a bit to just help us think about how the world has become today, right? We're constantly receiving feedback and data from different applications and tools to help us achieve our goals better. I've just put a few examples here. If you look at the Fitbit, we're constantly getting feedback on how many steps we're taking and are we meeting our walking goals for the day, and that helps us achieve our health goals. Google Maps, I want to go somewhere. I'm constantly getting feedback on where I am in that journey, and that helps me reach my goal in an efficient and effective manner. Same for website analytics, right? I want viewers. It tells me how many people are liking the design and the tools, and is it easy or are people dropping off, and that helps me get my viewership goals. Now, somehow, it doesn't seem like we're doing the same thing or using data in the same way to empower our students, right? But with technology, we can. So let's just think about how does student learning happen in the classroom typically. Typically, we have a unit or a topic that we start and we learn one topic, one aspect, one key learning, second key learning, third key learning. Then the end of the unit comes, and then at that time we give them a test, or at the end of a term we give them an exam and an exam report, right? But with technology now, we can start what I just heard this a few days ago. We can start turning these assessments into assessments. That means we give the feedback on a regular basis during the learning journey so that they can use it to stay on track and meet their learning goals. And if you told me let's do this 5 years ago, I would have said you're insane, because it's impossible. We have 40 children, 120 children, 160 children that we're working with. But with technology, things like Google Forms Classroom, we can make this happen, right? So we tried it last year and we had a very positive experience, which I'll share with you now. How did we go about trying to do this to some extent, right? We said first, okay, we need to stop just doing that assessment at the end of the term or at the end of the unit. We have to assessments during the learning journey. So with the help of Google Forms and other plugins and extensions like Pear Deck, Drive, etc., we were able to assess learning at least once a week. If nothing else, at least give them a Google Form multiple choice quiz on the topic they're learning. In addition to that, we use Google Classroom and Sheets to make the students' progress and assessments visible to them. How much have I done? How much have I missed? What is left, right? And this, we found, allowed students to track their own progress, and it empowered them. Let me just show you what happened. Okay, sorry, before I go to the data, here's for those of you that have used Google Classroom, you've definitely seen this. For those of you that haven't, this is a screenshot from the student view. You can see these are all the assignments in that child who's in class 5C. What is done is shown up. If he clicks on the missing tab, he can see what's missing. If he clicks on the assign tab, he can see the due date, he or she. And here's how we use Excel sheets. Again, this is extracted from Google Classroom. It's very small, I know you can't see. But these are the different assignments that have been done on different dates. And the students, we've been able to give them a running average of how they're doing. All right. And what happened when we did this? Last year, when we just started online schooling, we didn't do this. We just had meetings and stuff like this. And this was how the submission of work was happening. We were giving fewer assignments, but yet students from standards 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, they were submitting anywhere between 30-40%. Some classes were close to 75%. After we started doing this, we saw a huge jump in the amount of work students were submitting, especially in the secondary section. Can you see the jump? We are confident this is something we want to sustain. Even after we go back, we'll find a way to do it, even if students don't have 1:1 devices, but help them track on that. We saw overall 21% in the increase, which is a huge number. So please, if you aren't already exploring Classroom, even just to organize the work and make it available to students to refer to, think about that. I'll now call on Mehnaz to talk about the second way in which we can leverage technology to bring in authentic learning.
Thanks, Radhika. So everyone, over the next few slides, like Radhika mentioned, I will be sharing about how this learning journey and these learning experiences were made authentic for our students. And at TGA, our students are actively engaged in an inquiry process through project-based learning. Now, project-based learning is a teaching method in which our students learn by actively engaging in real-world and personally meaningful projects. Now, because of the introduction of technology, we were able to make it richer, student-centered, and make deep learning experiences for our students. And we could do this because tech allowed us.
Is Mehnaz hung?
Yeah, I think so.
I'll take over for Mehnaz until she comes back. Mehnaz is back. Mehnaz.
Sorry, Radhika, I'm not sure where you heard us still. I'm so sorry.
You just started with tech has allowed us to.
Okay, so tech has allowed us to go far beyond the four walls of our classroom. And as part of this process, students asked relevant questions based on real world situations in their community, in their environment. And they also answered these with the help of relevant resources, data that they could now access online. So they no longer had to only rely on the teacher and the textbook, but they could curate and find their resources. And all of this was effectively done through collaboration throughout the process of throughout this project. Going into a little bit, I'm going to dive a little bit into one of our projects, but these are some of the questions that school-wide we accessed over the years. We had 10 PBL projects across different subject areas. And the first one I'd like you to I'll read out for you is how can we use print media to spread awareness about what is really happening to endangered animals under the sea. And we're going to go over this project a little more closely over the next few slides. Radhika, thank you. And here's how we maximize the use of text. While students were gathering information, they were able to reach out to and get perspective from veterans in the field. We invited people from different walks of life related to the project to come into our classrooms and share their perspective, and students asked them questions for more information. More so, we also had experts from around the country because we were no longer limited to the confines of our city or our state. The skies was the limit. So an example also that I wanted to highlight is our students were reading about what is happening to endangered animals under the sea, and they learned about bycatch and how the incidental catch of non-targeted fish was leading to tremendous wastage. But when Advocate Afroz Shah, also a UN laureate, came to our classroom, he visited, he explained that this was not really an issue in the Indian context because even the provided a new lens for the students which they had not thought of before and made the experience very authentic and contextual. In the next slide, I won't go into the entire process because it's not in the scope of this session. However, I'm going to zoom into point number 6, which was about reading the public product. So as students gather their information from different sources, they created a final product with authentic skills that students required and practiced through technology, skills required for the 21st century. So some of these skills were collaborating to create the feature article that you see on your screen. Now, as students were reading this article, they looked, of course, they worked in their breakout rooms to read different articles together. They watched informative videos, and they did this through different lenses. One was looking at it from a historian lens, what is history of the issue, of one was looking at from an economist lens of how is this issue affecting the local, regional, global economy, or one from his humanitarian lens and understanding how is this issue affecting specific groups in the region today. Of course, they use Google Docs to collaborate. They use the comments to give feedback to each other on their different roles to put this one writing sample, this one piece together. In fact, they even had the opportunity, some of them, to exercise agency because some of them chose to write while others chose to create illustrations, and it really played to their strengths in their area of interest. Over the next slide, you can see the covering letter also that students wrote together in order to share it so that the magazine or the newspaper that they wrote to could publish this feature article. Ours was published by Robin Age in the November issue and also the Lifestyle Portal. And finally, we took all of these articles that we had curated and we put them all together on a website along with the feature articles and the cover letters, and therefore facilitating peer learning even further. They went to each other's articles, read them, shared it with the community at a large scale, and so to create awareness for those who wanted to read it within the school community and beyond. And finally, just to wrap up this section, we did not really learn and use the tools for the sake of the tools, but to teach transferable 21st century skills of collaboration, taking feedback for improvement, thinking critically along with the team through answering on problem and solving problems of how endangered animals are affected under the water. They analyzed, they interpreted data, they synthesized information, and all of this was possible through the different tools for productivity and collaboration, communication and sharing, and analysis that we use throughout the project. Radhika, I'll allow you to take us forward.
Thank you, Mehnaz. I really think, oh, sorry, I didn't show all the different tools that students have been working with, but definitely this has been a huge, huge transformation that all of us are so thrilled to see in the classrooms. So, Mehnaz, thank you for giving us details around that. Let's move on to the last section. We talked about how we can use the digital tools for teachers to empower themselves, students, and now our third stakeholder, which is parents and the community. So what are the ways we try to do that? Really quickly, I'll just skim through the first one. One is how did we use it to empower families? And I'll talk about how it helped enhance our communication with our parents. The first thing that we did is we were now able to, though parents are in their students' classes, for the most part, they really have no way to know what's going on in the school as such. So we again used Google Sites. I'll just show you an example of what it looked like to create a digital newsletter. This is what it looks like. It's a very simple newsletter. You can see we send it out every 2 weeks. I can show you the most recent one. And that looks like this. But basically what we did is collaboratively now we could put together all the things that were happening from different sections in the school, right from senior school to primary, and sort of share these kind of pictures and events with the parents every 2 weeks, something that we could not do before without technology. I'm not going to spend more time on that, but just wanted to give you all a sneak peek. But that is something that you can consider doing. How can you use technology sites to digitally share what's happening in your school with with parents. On a related note and slight segue, you might think if you've not used sites before, it's so complicated. Maybe your teachers are very high tech. Nobody, I think in our 150 teacher team, there may have been 1 or 2 people or 3 people who had used sites before this. And now we have a huge amount of teachers using sites. And if you ask them, I'm sure they'll all tell you it's very, very manageable. So just wanted to share that. And of course, another thing for those of you that have used, of course, email everyone is using, but Google Classroom, we now can have ongoing back and forth communication very seamlessly between student and teacher and parent and teacher. This has been a game changer because now the issues, smaller issues like Miss, I don't know what the homework is, or what was the announcement that I missed. That can be resolved in time rather than waiting for a parent-teacher meeting or something like that. So these are two things for you as school leaders you really should consider. It has been a huge support to our communication and integrating the community with our school efforts. I'll now let Sanyukta give you a much more exciting lens on how the community can be engaged using tech.
Thanks, Radhika. So at Green Acres, we're very passionate about our students engaging with the larger community that's beyond the people in their school. So that's the parents and the teachers. And one such way we do that is through social action projects, where students every year study a social issue and they have to do something about it, where they can share their knowledge with a larger community or try to solve a social problem that they see around them. We were working on many, but I'm going to talk about one such project that we did last year as our pilot. Our students were learning about dark skin stigma in their social change, citizenship and social change class. And one of the problems that they noticed is that a lot of the resources available out there were not child friendly. They were mostly all this conversations around dark skin stigma was geared towards adults, and so they wanted to make it child friendly. And in order to do that, we started this campaign called Skinclude, where we had 6 different batches and all of them worked on something. So they created picture books, they created merchandise, they created videos to educate people. And none of this would have been possible had we not used technology. So technology really helped us in creating this larger than life campaign that allowed them to engage with the community that was way beyond their classroom in many different parts of the world. And I'll show you how. Radhika, can you go to the next slide? So for example, they created all their picture books on this website called Canva. So they made illustrations, they wrote their text, all of that. We used Google Meet to learn from experts. So we had a branding workshop by this organization called Thought Over Design, something that would not have been possible had we been in physical school, since the founder was in Goa. So it was very simple for us to collaborate with them online. Not only did she do a workshop, she gave them continuous feedback as they came up with the name and the logo for their project. We also, one of the books that our students wrote was about people's experiences with dark skin stigma, and they interviewed 12 people from different parts of the world, ranging from Canada to smaller cities like Varanasi, people in Mumbai that they didn't know. We could use technology to reach out to them, and then Google Meet to actually speak to them, interview them, record the conversation, and then transcribe it and write it into a story. This would not have been possible if something like Google Meet didn't exist. If we were trying to do this in-person interview, we would again be limited to people who are in and around close to our school. But this really allowed us to go beyond and interview so many different people and have a very diverse book that we put together. Another thing we did is we use social media, so like Instagram and Facebook, to launch a campaign where our students design merchandise to that they sold and raised funds for an NGO called Saturday Art Class. So they reached out to people like influencers, they made posts, they even created a film on the myths about dark skin, and they actually addressed those myths in a very child-friendly manner. Lastly, because we had 6 different projects all under the same banner, we housed all of it in Google Sites. I'm sure by now you think the school is obsessed with Google Sites, but it really worked to our advantage because you can see all of the projects together. I'm actually going to paste the link in the chat box, so if you want, you can see it. It's not happening, but we'll try again. Yeah, and all of this basically led to some really good engagement with a very large community that was spread across the world. Radhika, could you go to the next slide, please? So within the first week itself, our students had more than 3,000 people view their website in the first week of them launching their campaign. And over a month, they on Instagram, they were able to have 800 plus followers. Of course, this Instagram was managed by the teachers so that we knew what the content was going out, but our students created all of the material that went out on the Instagram page. We had 800 followers within a month's time, and over 10,000 people were interacting with our posts on average in the 1 month that we ran the campaign online. So again, this was a huge opportunity for our kids to interact with people in many different ways. And like you saw here, technology made that possible for us because it allowed them to use these tools in a very authentic manner and share their knowledge, which otherwise would have been limited to them making a presentation to their other classmates. Now they could use the knowledge that they got from the program about dark skin stigma to a much larger audience. And it really helped because they created content that didn't actually exist before. So for example, one of the books that they made was about explaining how melanin functions in your body and why that's so important to understand in the context of dark skin stigma. So this is another way we engaged with the community using technology.
Thanks, Anyukta. This project was so exciting. It was one of the first ones where we really brought in all of these authentic experiences with technology, and it inspired many of the other projects and PBL projects that we did after that. So these are just few things we picked to share with you. I've listed them all down here, right from think about digital workshops, think about using Google Workspace, or if you use any other platform, but a productivity and collaborative tool for bringing in teacher collaboration and just heightening efficiency. Think about bringing student agency and authentic learning with all of these tools, and of course community engagement with these tools, newsletters and two-way engagement. Coming back, just to wrap up, coming back to this site again, leaders, I hope that after seeing all of these sort of things that we've shared, maybe you can think about what opportunity, maybe you're already doing some of these, but which ones of these might be something you want to try in your school, and then think about how you will communicate it to your team and provide the resources, the tools, the time, and the tools, time, and training. And just a few final thoughts to end this session before we have about 15 minutes for Q&A. Recognize the opportunity. Please support transformation. This is such an exciting time, and all of you optimists out there, it is a great time for you to jump on this opportunity. All of these things that we chose can be done in a hybrid situation, even if your children don't have 1:1 devices. Because if they've all been accessing some device at home, most of these things are possible. So do think about creative ways you can do that. However, you must remember that I'm stealing two quotes I picked up from the Google Innovator program that I just finished attending. And what they kept telling us is, you can't boil the ocean, right? So don't try and think about how massive this digital transformation is and feel overwhelmed and say it's impossible, there's too much to do. No, you cannot boil the ocean. You will probably give up in like 5 minutes because you're so overwhelmed with it. And another quote they gave us, which is a good strategy to not boil the ocean, but what can you do instead, is they told us that you can turn your someday goals into your Monday goals. What does that mean? We all say, someday I'm going to make this happen in my school. Someday, I don't know, our kids are going to have devices in the classroom and we're going to do this. They're all going to be learning coding in the classroom, or they're all going to be creating digital media in the classroom. Those are big goals. So don't only say someday, you say the someday goal, and then you also think, okay, what small part of that can I do on Monday to take one step closer to my someday goal, right? So if I want to have students use technology, maybe I'll say, okay, Monday, I will try to do this in an asynchronous manner where we launch Google Classroom for them to just access from home. not in the classroom because I don't have a device, right? So chunk them into smaller, more achievable goals. Yeah. And finally, last but definitely not the least important, I'll just leave you to read this quote, but leaders build the vision, recognize the opportunity, provide the resources, but equally important is that we have to trust our teams, right? We don't want to go in with a mindset thinking that nobody can do it. I'm sure all of you, just as us, have been shocked and so excited by how quickly people, teachers, students, everyone can adapt if you trust them and provide them with the support and resources. And this quote from Steve Jobs really just stood out to me, that technology is nothing. And what's important is you have faith in people, that they're basically good and smart, and if you give them the tools, they'll do wonderful things with them. We've definitely seen that happen in our organization. And that is all we had to share for today. We wanted to leave a little bit of time for Q&A. I think we have 15 minutes. We've also left an email in case you want to know more about how, or you want more information on how you can do this in your schools, whatever we can share, we're happy to share. You can reach out to us on this email ID. But Sakshi, are you there? Can we open up to 15 minutes of Q&A? And yes, there's a feedback form as well. Please do fill in the feedback form. We'd love to hear what was helpful and what we can do better.
Yeah, so great. Thank you for the engaging session, Radhika and team. And as you know, the Radhika said that we have opened the floor for Q&A. If any of you have any questions, you can raise your hand and we can let you in, unmute you, and you can ask your question.
Feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions, please. And thank you for the Green Acres team, Radhika and the team for the wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sakshi. It was our pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity. We really enjoyed this. I see someone asking about MS Teams and Google Workspace. I don't have enough information about MS Teams, but we could open that out maybe in a bit after I answer the other questions. If someone else uses MS Teams, based on what we've shared, they can share similar features out there. I can see a hand up. Yes, Mr. Radha, please go
Yeah,
ahead.
I was just wondering, how much sensitization or training was required from the parents' perspective.
That's a great question. Others, please jump in. I think at the outset, there was a fair amount of support. In fact, when we launched it, we had a whole plan which started off with first make 100% of students just come online. Like make sure they all have their Google IDs functioning, they're all on Classroom. So we started off first, we had all of our IT people just drop everything and set up a phone line and said, parents, call us if there's anything you need for just 1 week. And with that effort, in 2 weeks, there we had almost 100% of all our students online. After that, we did try several things in terms of running workshops. The same Google Sites thing we did for teachers, we started doing that also for parents, where we would say, here's how you use Classroom, here's how you use this course, here's how students can log on to use some blended programs for math. We've created some for those. It was a lot of work. We still had a good amount of parents who didn't catch up as quickly. But I think slow and steady, what happens is in the beginning, most parents don't know, but as more and more parents start to know, it becomes easier for the school, because then the parents start to help each other. So I think it was a gradual process of first a lot of explicit support and helplines, and then the community itself started to become very digitally literate community, even within the parent body as well. So I think that was our experience.
No, I also meant not just from a technical training perspective, but making them sort of come on board with a new way of
Sure,
learning, right? So
sure. Yeah,
they don't really see the impact of such things because it's really hard to boil it down to a grade or a mark in how it would
absolutely,
actually
absolutely.
translate.
Uh, I definitely, so yes, leaving the tech aside, I think there are some things we've done that have worked really well, but there are many areas where we feel we are still learning, especially when we want to introduce something that's really progressive and maybe parents have never had it in their own school. Yes, often there is resistance, but things that have worked for us, one is, like you said, upfront providing support, if it's not just technology related, even if it's related to uh, something we're doing. So, for example, in our early childhood, we have a phonics program and a structured language program. And we host workshops for parents to come and do that. Now, all parents don't come, but the ones that do it does help them. In addition to that, the two things around the newsletter and the Google Classroom has really helped, because what happens when a parent has a question, instead of, they still go to the parent groups and they might ask and maybe not get the best explanation on the parent group, but they also now have a channel to ask the teacher directly or reach out to a leader through those two-way communications. And in our newsletters, we always throw in a little bit of information about why we are making a certain change and what is the benefit to students. So these are ways that we've supported parents, but absolutely there are always parents that are early adopters and do it faster, and then there are parents that take more time. And TTA has helped in transferring, our decision-making process to the parent body as well. But yes, we're still learning, I think, on that.
Great, thanks a lot.
Yes, yes, Nisalini.
A very good evening, and first of all, I would like to thank you all, young girls out there, doing a wonderful job and, kind of keeping me hooked to it right till the end. I was somewhere wanting to drop off somewhere in the middle, very honestly, and I really want to say it out to you all. I thought, like, what is it that where's the catch? What is it that they're offering? So I kind of stayed on, and I'm so happy that I did, because there were a lot of things that I had been thinking of also, how to integrate couple of things, and you made it all sound so easy, first of all. Secondly, I was just wanting to know, I may sound a little illiterate on this, so you can have a good laugh if you wish to. I was just thinking, like, a lot of things that you've talked about. Can you also let me know, are there any costs involved in all this?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And as is with so many things in education, the whole challenge is that the system is so complex, right? Because the resources we might have in our organization, maybe a smaller school will not have, or others. But I can share uh, some cost related stuff. And Sanyukta, Mehna, Smriti, if anything else comes to mind, please let us know. I think we're very fortunate to have a very supportive admin and IT team in our network, and a central team, which is the four of us plus a few others who, for example, if I go back to the PD part, the professional development, the online courses, the content, we created it in house, but because our organization has invested in a team to do professional development for the network. So I guess that's a cost that might feature if you were to try and implement those things. In terms of Google Workspace, I do know that Google Workspace is free, a certain version is free. So a lot of the features are available to schools at no cost. And I think this includes versions of sites, of classroom, and all of those things. I think there is a license, but it's fairly affordable for schools, because I think that is one of Google's USPs. They want it to be accessible. I think the license we use is called a teaching and learning license, which allows us to do things like record classes, so we can take it to PLCs and allow for more than 100 people, I think, in a call because we are a large organization. But those, I think, are quite affordable costs in the school, in the scheme of things for school. Other than, I think a lot of usability things can be done in-house if you have a core team of people that wants to share within the school. So it's I don't know what your setup is like, but these are the things I think that the main things that sort of allowed for us to do this.
Well,
I don't know if I answered your question, but if you have something
no,
more specific, happy to.
no. You did because you kind of at least set me on that it's doable. It's
Great.
like you did clarify that it's not something that's involves immediately a big investment, and like you understand making the organization or the people understand. So even if it
Yeah.
is smaller things, like you said, in-house, lot of things, and a devoted team like you you people are there, I think so. Thank you so much. It did help me. Thank
And
you.
thank you for your feedback. It's always very
Oh,
motivating.
it is
Uh,
an amazing thing, and I'm so happy that a lot of good things are happening in India. So I'm really, really proud of you all. Really, make
Thank
us
you.
all proud. You make our whole community fraternity are proud.
Thank you.
All the best.
Sanita, you wanted to add something? Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, like, there are a lot of tools available. For example, like Radhika used Mentimeter in the beginning, and all of these tools have a free version always. So it becomes very easy for teachers
Mhm.
to also make their classes very exciting. So there are tools like Mentimeter, Kahoot, all of them have free versions and they have paid versions. And we've actually found that most of our teachers use the free versions and manage with that. So of course there are limitations that you can only ask 2 or 3 questions, but then we prioritize which questions we want to ask so that we can use the 3 question limit. And most of these tools that we use are actually the free versions. We don't use paid versions for most things.
Thank you. I did try them out, while you were putting it on. So I wanted to play them, so Mentimeter and all that. I said, let me try them out. And yes, thank you so much. Really, thank you, Ma'am Sayukta, for adding that.
Thank you. Sakshi, you want to add something?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I have put in email IDs of me as well as my colleagues in the message box. As well as once you fill the feedback form, there are our email IDs. You can reach out to us in case you have any questions regarding the tools, and I think we'll be able to deliver more details on those.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have taken us short.
Any more questions? Please feel free to unmute yourself.
I'm also going to put our email ID in case anyone wants to ask or needs any further information. Um, Feel free to reach out to us.
Great, thank you so much, Ms. Zahidi. And I once again request everyone to please fill in the feedback. The link has been shared multiple times on the chat stream. It's important for us to hear from you on how can we make ourselves better. So, all right. So if any of you have any further questions, you have 30 more seconds before we put the session off. So you can ask. But it's great to see the way online education has shaped up and the tools and options that are available now. I couldn't have imagined this when we were in school. I mean, I couldn't have imagined myself doing online education so swiftly and with such exciting and innovative options. So I think it's good for teachers also, while it's a bit challenging, no doubt on that, but I think it's interesting at the same time. So I think your team enjoys doing this also, and that's very evident that you are kind of able to.
Yes, definitely. I think all of us are super passionate. We're all big optimists on what is going to happen, what is going to sustain also after this whole digital transformation has happened due to the pandemic. So, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our learning with everyone. I think Menas, you can see me. I'm not sure if I have hung or Miss Samreen has.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions, I think we can wrap up for today. Samreen's system has switched off, so yes. Any more questions, anybody? I think we can take another minute. And thank you so much for joining us here, and thank you the Green Acres team for being here and giving us so much of learning around how we can use these tools in real life in schools. And this is really enriching session, is what I would say. Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity and thanks team for all your work putting this together. Sakshi, can we log off now that it's 3:30? I don't think there's any more questions.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. This was lovely.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.